The Tory party have junked every commitment they made in the 2014 referendum. They have destroyed their own case for the union. Let's remember just a few of the highlights. In 2014, they told us we would be safe in the European Union if we voted no. Now we are out of the single market, and every household in Scotland is paying the price, the Danegeld of Brexit. In 2014, they told us we would be safe in sterling if we voted no. Now sterling is kept afloat by sky-high interest rates, and every household in Scotland is paying the price, the Danegeld of sterling. In 2014, they actually told us if we voted no, it would mean lower energy bills, falling, they said, by £50 a household. Now every home in Scotland is paying thousands extra, the Danegeld of higher heating bills. The Tories have not just wrecked the economy, they have wrecked the case that they argued for the union with it. The No campaign in 2014 sneaked home on a false prospectus. They conned Scotland out of independence. The union is placing Scotland on the road to ruin, and the SNP seem too preoccupied with their own problems to do anything about it. With independence support running at 48%, Scotland must not be duped by false prospectus from the Unionists or indeed by the endless permutations of a hung parliament. Scotland needs now to drive forward on an independence agenda. My conference, I actually can't think of anything dafter than placing your political eggs in a hung parliament basket. And the ever-moving red lines that we have heard about over the last week, we've been told that the objective in such a situation would be to variously move Labour to the left, to undo Brexit, or indeed to secure an independence referendum. You see, the danger of talking up the importance of replacing the blue Tories with the red Tories is that people might well decide if the key objective is just to replace the Tories, they might as well vote Labour. Do the SNP seriously think that Sir Keir Starmer has just been waiting for the SNP to persuade him to be more socialist, to concede an independence referendum, or to reverse his entire European policy? Delegates, friends, instead of undoing Brexit, we should be undoing the Union. And let me say this as a question to our SNP colleagues. Why go cap in hand to Unionists when we should all be campaigning head held high with fellow nationalists? Why are we trying to organise coalitions with the British establishment? The only coalitions we should be organising are with Scottish nationalists, with the parties and with the movement. Unionists will never deliver for Scotland. Not in Westminster, not in the Supreme Court. That's the lesson of recent history, so learn it. Now, 10 years ago, support for the Scottish National Party was at 45%, and support for Scottish independence was below 30%. Now the position is all but reversed. Support from the SNP is now somewhere in the 30s, but support for independence is near 50%. In these circumstances, logic, indeed personal survival, should tell SNP parliamentarians to downplay the party and to stress independence. The correct course for Scotland winning the Westminster election is for the independence parties to unite to put up one candidate in each seat. That is an agreement that Alba are willing to promote. And today I have thus written to the leaders of the independence supporting parliamentary parties suggesting such an arrangement by which each constituency has one independence candidate standing all under one banner. Now, in a novel touch, to get them to read the letter, I've sent it by post. And it's quite deliberate. I don't want a flip-online response from a spin doctor. I really do want them to think about it and about what is best for Scotland. Can I say, as Alba, we have only really one requirement for such an agreement. That is that the first paragraph in each of the party manifestos must be to seek a mandate to negotiate independence for Scotland. Because the cause of Scotland is bigger than any one political party. Indeed, it's bigger than all political parties. And it's time for the independence movement to unite to declare its own independence from any political party. Last Saturday, at Glasgow Green, the national movement demonstrated that it's the most powerful force in Scottish politics. Within that movement, there are organisations who promote the rallies, the think tanks which develop policy ideas, groups which emphasise sovereignty or promote the detail of an independent currency, people who believe in taking Scotland's case to the international courts. And there is the wider Yes movement of ordinary folk across our land, ready and willing to mobilise and to campaign. All of these flowers should be encouraged to bloom. But to be most effective, this effort has to be coordinated. Right now, there are moves underway to bring the national movement together. Alba will support, or indeed, if necessary, initiate these efforts. There's much work to be done to bring together the independence convention required to take the nation forward. A nation, remember, where half of our population already supports independence, and it has to be ready to seize political opportunity. We've moved into a position where the people are ahead of the politicians, and therefore the people have to take the lead. There has to be an agreed position on how we pursue the political mandate for independence, on how to democratically force Westminster's hand to negotiate, on the Scottish platform during the negotiations, on the constitutional framework to establish the new state. These are the essential building blocks of a new Scotland, and they require to be brought into place. So my pledge today is that Alba as a party will be a part of that initiative which brings such an independence convention into life. Meanwhile, the new First Minister really needs to sort out his government. Back in 2014, even our most bitter opponent never attempted to argue that the SNP government did not run a competent administration at Holyrood. Now the failings of the SNP Green administration are used by our opponents to attack independence. A month or two back, the party chair and I debated for independence at the Oxford Union. We did pretty well. 1/3 of the vote in the very heart of the English academic establishment. Not as well as Neil Hanvey, of course, who actually won the independence vote in a debate at the Cambridge Union. At any rate, when we were debating at Oxford, I was struck by the number of talented young Scots, many of them bedecked in the Black Watch tartan, who were arguing against the motion on independence, except they weren't really arguing against independence at all. They were attacking the failures, real and imagined, of the SNP Green administration. This must change, and the new First Minister needs to get a grip. So here's some unsolicited advice for the guy I gave his first job to. Firstly, the things to bin. 1, bin the highly protected marine area proposals. They're causing consternation across our fishing communities. Bin them now. 2, bin the proposals for juryless trials. They are causing consternation among every decent lawyer in Scotland. Bin them now. 3, bin the proposals in pursuit of self-identification. These proposals have caused consternation among the majority of people in Scotland. You can't beat Westminster by dividing Scotland. Bin them now. And then there are the things to concentrate on. Health, education, housing, the cost of living. The Scottish Government doesn't have the political bandwidth to pick unnecessary fights with the rest of Scottish society. Concentrate on what matters to people and re-establish the Scottish Government's reputation for competence. Hamza has been left with a tough job, but he did volunteer for it. And note just about every single bungle in recent Scottish governance, the bottle return scheme, self-identifications, failure to dual the A9 and A96 to this, the capital of the Highlands, all of these failures have Green Party fingers all over them. Perhaps it's time to bin the Butte House Agreement with the Green Party. And then, of course, there's the areas in which, of policy in which the independence argument will be won. Now, Alba is a political party about 2 years old. But each of our conference, we have focused on the potential of Scotland's reservoir of clean, green, affordable energy. We heard a great deal about that in the debates this morning. The seas around Scotland will easily yield 5 times our own electricity consumption. However, last year's ScotWind auction was a national disgrace, selling off vast areas of Scotland's resources for a fraction of what they're worth. A 700 million once and for all payment for an asset that will soon be worth 11 billion every year. The model we should follow in handling Scotland's energy wealth is that of Norway. There needs to be a public stake as of right in every offshore wind development. Now, we lost out in dramatic terms in our first energy windfall in Scotland. The Chancellor of the Exchequer is expecting £80,000 million in North Sea revenues over the next few years, £16,000 a head for every man, woman and child in Scotland. Remember, that's from the self-same resource that the Unionist coalition Better Together said was finished, done, in 2014. A long time ago, as a young energy economist, I described the theft of Scotland's oil and gas resources as the greatest act of international larceny since the Spanish stole the Inca gold. But that larceny was the fault and responsibility of the United Kingdom government. If we allow it to happen again with our own renewable resources, we'll have nobody to blame but ourselves. Friends, Alba is a young party. We are but 2 years old and have but 2 members of Parliament. But what members they are. Neil Hanvey brought to the Westminster Parliament a bill promoting Scottish sovereignty, and in doing so made one of the finest speeches on Scottish independence that I've ever heard in that place. Kenny McCaskill has been relentless in explaining the true extent of Scotland's energy resources and defending ordinary Scots against the extortion of greedy power and energy companies. No party could wish for finer representatives. And with Kenny and Neil in the vanguard, the Alba machine has started up and the engine is now moving us forward. As we were told this morning, we are now the 4th largest party in Scotland by membership, but closing fast on the Green Party in 3rd place. Our chair has set us a task, and given our chair has set us one, we better do it. By our annual conference, Dasmina says she intends us to be the 3rd biggest party in Scotland and thus the 2nd biggest independence party. I love the ambition, but it doesn't stop there. In early 1960s America, Avis Rent-A-Car was the 2nd biggest car rental company in the United States. Then they hit on an advertising campaign, which was to transform their prospects from being a minor player to being a major one. They proclaimed to Americans that they were the second biggest car hire company in the United States and mobilized the power of the underdog. They said, we are second, so we try harder. Alba are about to become Scotland's second biggest independence party, so therefore we will try harder to become the first. Now, it won't happen this week or next week, or perhaps not even over 5 years, but come it will for all that. Alba is now answering the call of a movement which is crying out for leadership. Leadership in opposing Westminster rule in Scotland. Leadership in bringing the independence parties and the movement together. Leadership in restoring national sovereignty to our country of Scotland. We are a small party on our way to becoming a large one. We will get there, and so will Scotland. Leadership now, sovereignty now, independence now.